Welcome again to Whiteside's Workshop. Today we're talking about bending tubing, roll bar tubing, any kind of tubing that you want to bend. I don't bend a lot of tubing every day, so I have to have a method that's easy to remember how to bend tubing. So this is my method how to measure and bend tubing for roll cages. I don't know if it's the right way or the wrong way, but it's the way I do it. We have a bar here, a piece of, well, it's a bendy straw, but it represents a piece of roll bar tubing. And what I want to do is I want to make a U-shaped bend. I'll show you how to lose a radius, or how to calculate the radius of your bend and how much you're going to gain and lose. So this piece of tubing right here, this bendy straw that represents a piece of tubing, is 64 inches long. And this is 16 inches from the end and another 16 inches to the center line. So if you see, you start on 0 and then you bend the straw or bend the tubing. As you bend that radius, you actually lose 2 inches on that side. So this distance got 2 inches shorter. This distance down here, the long side or the short side, actually gained 2 inches. You're down from 16 inches to 18 inches. So you lost 2 inches up here and you gained 2 inches down here. So that's what you got to remember when you're bending tubing. In order to figure that out on your own bender, you have to take a piece of tubing and put it in there and bend it 90 degrees and take your measurements. You're going to get a gain on this end and a loss on this end. What I generally do is we'll take a piece of tubing with two 10-inch marks on it, and we'll bend it, and then we'll measure both lengths, and we know how much gain and how much loss we got. Every bender is different and every die is different. It has to be done for every bender and every size die that you have. So we're going to go to the full size tubing now, and we're going to make some bends, and I'll show you what I mean. And I also want you to know that I take all my measurements from in front of the die before it gets bent. This is the back of the die back here where the leg is, and then in front of the die is where the long part is. That way I keep everything simple. All my measurements come from the back side of the die, or I'm sorry, the front side of the die. That way I know if I bend it, if I have a bend, if it's 16 inches here to here, then I bend it and it's 14 inches, then I know how much I gotta add over here to make this the right length. I'll show you it'll be easier to show you on the bender itself. So let's go over and we'll make a few bends. Okay, now we're going to find out how much gain and how much loss our bender has. This is 1.5 inch tubing, 0.95 wall. And we're going to bend it after we mark it. We marked it at 10 inches from the end and 20 inches from the end. So we're going to put the 10-inch line on the die and bend a 90 degree in it, and then we'll see how far the bend is from the 20 inches and from the 10 inches. Then we know how much gain we have on our leg and how much loss we have on our base. But this is the die that this is the bender that I'm using. It's a copy of a JD squared bender. And this back here is the front of the die, because it's in front of the die. Nothing happens back here in the die. This side here is actually behind the die. This is after it's bent. This is where the tube is going to go. So whenever I say in front of the die or behind the die, this is in front of the die, and this is behind the die. So let's put it in and bend it. See how we come out. So we just line the tube up. I line the line up with the edge of the die itself. So I added an air over hydraulic system to my bender, make it a little easier on myself. Whenever you're making bends, You want to make sure the arm of your die is level, this base arm. Because when you bend, you want some way to put the material back in the die if you're going to bend a U shape, so the two legs of the U are even. They're not twisted. So this die is level right now. So after I bend this, I can put this on the arm, the leg of the bend, and I'll put it level when I bend the other end. So we make sure this is level before we start bending. Bring the die out. You can start to feel resistance on the die. You can't turn the tube anymore. And you know the die is ready to go, ready to bend. And my line my line is right on the edge of the die. And then my indicator, I'm going to set my indicator to 0. My needle's going to be at 0 right now. Okay, I got that set to 0. My degree wheel is just an old degree wheel for a camshaft degree wheel that I had laying around. I added it to my bender. It makes bending a whole lot easier so you don't have to guess at your degrees. All right, we're going to bend this tube to 90 degrees. You always want to put a little splash of lubricant on your shoes so you don't pull up a burr on your shoe or score it. Now when you want to bend a 90-degree bend, you want to bend past 90 degrees or 45, wherever you want. At 45, you want to probably bend past 2 degrees. At 90-degree bends, you're probably going to want to go about 3 degrees past, because when you loosen up the hydraulic pressure, bounces back. It goes right back to 90 degrees. So now we got it bent to 90 degrees. We're going to take a look at it and see how we did. Now when we started, this leg was 10 inches long, and this line was 20 inches from the end. So now, first we make sure we're at 90 degrees. Two-tenths of a degree there. Six-tenths of a degree there. So within a degree and 90 degrees. So we measured our leg, which was 10 inches before, straight up and down. Let me get the center to help me keep it straight up and down. Straight up and down, we are at 16.5 inches. So we gained 6.5 inches from this back edge of here to the end of this pipe. This was 10 inches long, but if we're bending a U shape, now we're at 16.5 inches. So we gained that much. What we gained here, we're going to lose some here. So when you turn it up this way, again, I'll keep my sticker in there. That line right there is about 7 5/8 inches. So we lost 2 3/8 inches because this was 20 inches. We subtracted 10 from here. So it would have been 10 inches from here to here. But now from here to the outside, it's only 7 5/8. So we lost 2.5 inches. So the outside of this bend got 2.5 inches closer to this line. The outside of this bend got 2.5 inches closer to this line than before we bent it. So now we know that we gained 6.5 inches on our leg after the die, and we lose 2 3/8 inches before the die. So once you find those numbers, you can etch them in the top of your die, write them in there with a paint pen, write them down in your book so you know. So every bend you make it on this material with this die, you're going to get these numbers. So if we wanted to make a piece that was 20 inches wide here, we measured over 10 inches. We know we lost 2 3/8 on a side. We lost 2 3/8 inch. 2.5 inches. That's at 7.5. So I guess we lost 2.5 inches. 2 5/8, 2.5. So now if we want to make a 20-degree wide U outside to outside, we got to take this dimension from here to your line on your die and make it 20 inches plus 2.5. So it'd be 22.5. So you measure 22.5 up from here, and that's where you put your bend line, and that's where you make your other bend. So let's do that. Okay, we're going to bend a 32-inch wide hoop with 10-inch legs. So it's 32 inches outside to outside of the tubing and 10 inches from the end of the leg to the top edge of the tubing. So take 32 inches for the top edge, top tube, and 10 inches for each leg. That's 52 inches. We can subtract 13 inches because these legs are going to gain 6.5 inches on each side, gain on your bend, times 2 is 13 inches. So that's a 39-inch tube. Then you got to take the loss that you're going to get on the bend from the center line out. That's 2.5 inches per side, times 2 is 5 inches. So you got a bend loss. So we're going to need about a 44-inch piece of tubing. I like to add 2 inches just for a kind of a fudge factor. Just in case I'm off a little bit on my measurements, I add 2 inches. So we're going to start out with a 46-inch piece of tubing, and we're going to bend both ends and see how we do, and see if we get it right on the first try. All right, we're going to bend a U that's 32 inches across. So I measured the center line of this tube, which is 23.5, but then I measured over 18.5 inches. So that's 16 inches off the center line plus 2.5 inches, because you're going to lose that when you bend it. It's going to lose that distance. So we're going to put it in and try it, and then we'll measure it. Okay, if we look, we're just about right on 16 inches. So 16 and a quarter, 16 and an eighth maybe. So that's a good bend. We're going to turn it around and do the same thing on the other end. So we'll measure back 18 and a half from here and bend the other end. Okay, we're done bending. We're at 32 and an eighth, give or take. That's close enough for me. Both legs are 90 degrees, right on. So that's a successful bend. You guys are gonna mess up bends. I still do it. Most of the time it's not a measurement problem. It's whether or not you're on the right side of your die problem. Sometimes it's a measurement problem. Most of the time you're off because you're on the wrong side of the die. Always keep the center line of your bends in front of the die, on this side of the die. One final word on bending with this bender and the method I use. This is for a weekend racer. I'm a weekend stock car racer on a budget like the rest of you guys. So the bends aren't exact sometimes, but they're really good for race car work, for bending main hoops and bending bumpers and things like that for race cars. I really enjoy doing these videos for you guys. I might do another video on some more complicated bends, how to do some more complicated bends on tubing. And I want to do videos on other things also. I was thinking about doing a video, maybe we'll do a video on how I took a Harbor Freight engine stand and made an engine run-in stand out of it. I don't know. I also might do a video on racing out of a 20-foot enclosed trailer, how I fit all my racing stuff inside of a 20-foot enclosed trailer with no problem. I really appreciate you guys watching. I enjoy doing these videos. Drop a comment on what you want to see or what you think, and like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Whiteside's Workshop. Thanks.